Hello everyone, this is Logan59XP here for another episode of the Nin-Cast here on June 20th of 2023, and today we're here to give my predictions and hopes for the new upcoming Nintendo Direct that is happening tomorrow on June 21st, 2023. And I'm just gonna say it, I did not think this was going to happen. I was pretty convinced that at best, we were going to get a partner showcase, because we never got any announcement back when Summer Games Fest was happening. And while yes, we had the partner showcase last year that was later on in the month, I don't know, just for some reason, there was even a part of me that thought maybe we wouldn't even get a partner showcase, because here's the thing, right? It is the middle of 2023. The Switch is over 6 years old, and Tears of the Kingdom is out the door. What else do they have left to talk about for the Switch that's big enough to justify a Direct? Honestly, and I never would say this if it was any other year, but honestly, for once, I would have actually been okay with Twitter drops. I know obviously people love Directs, they don't like that stuff gets dropped on Twitter sometimes, but, and normally I'd agree with you. Normally I'd be like, no, just give us a Direct already. But this is the one time where I'm like, you know what? I don't think we need one. Because what are they going to announce? What could they possibly announce that's for the current system that's big enough to justify a Direct? When they can just do Twitter drops or whatever, like they've done for some of their other stuff. Even more recently, obviously if we go back to 2020, you know, they had, like Paper Mario was a Twitter drop, for example. But there's even stuff like somewhat recently, like didn't they put out like a new, they put out a new Pikmin trailer like a few weeks ago. They could have put that in a Direct, they decided to Twitter drop that. Plus that and Everyone 1-2 Switch being announced made people kind of think, maybe we're not going to get a Direct, maybe this is just going to be Twitter drops for the summer, and then they're going to wait till September. And even that Direct may not have anything super big, but that's a whole other conversation for probably whenever we do the predictions and hopes for the September Direct, because there's gonna be a September Direct. There's always a September Direct, but that's for September, not June. We're here to talk about the June Direct. But long story short, I was pretty convinced at this point that at best we'd get a partner showcase, and even then I wouldn't have been surprised if that didn't happen, because what could they possibly announce? Tears of the Kingdom is out the door, and as far as I'm concerned, that's their last really big game. Yes, there's Prime 4, we're gonna talk about it in a bit, but in terms of the really big games, Tears of the Kingdom is the last one for the current system. Everything else, as far as I'm concerned, and what I expect most of this Direct to be as far as first-party stuff, is going to be DLC, updates, and ports. That is going to be at least 75% of the first-party stuff you see here, which I know is basically what we got in the last Direct in February, but this time I feel like it actually makes sense. Because again, what can they possibly show that's first party, that's new, that's for the current system and is not clearly being saved for later? Exactly. So, yeah, I'm not expecting... So basically, obviously we're going to get into all that in a sec, but basically, for anyone that's really getting hyped for this, because hey, this is technically their E3 Direct, I wouldn't get... don't treat it like an E3 Direct, because I don't think it's going to be. I think this is just going to be a regular, plain old-fashioned Direct. Well, okay, well, that gets into a whole other conversation. Well, actually, I'm of the opinion that we haven't had a real E3 Direct since 2017, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. Point is, don't go into this expecting much. I think this is going to mostly be DLC updates and ports, similar to what we got in the last Direct. And now that Tears of the Kingdom is out the door, there's nothing really big they have to cap off the events anymore. But again, we'll get to that in a sec. So, I don't know. I would have been honestly perfectly fine if this Direct never happened. I would have been perfectly okay with Twitter drops. And again, normally I would disagree with that. Normally I'd be like, no, give us a Direct. But for once, I actually wouldn't have blamed them. For once, I would have been like, you know what? It's probably for the best that you're not doing one, because if you did do one, you probably won't have anything big to show, and then people are going to complain that there was nothing big. But, like, what the hell do you expect when the console's at the end of its life? So, I don't know. So, you get the idea with that. So, with that preamble out of the way, let's actually talk about what will be here, though. Or at least what I think will be here. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about what's not going to be here first. Because I want to just get some of the obvious, like, well, maybe this might be here finally. I'm going to kill that right here, right now. First things first. Normally, I wouldn't even bring this up when I do a video like this. But I have seen some, not many, but some people talk about, hey, I wonder if we could get, maybe we'll see the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Maybe we'll see, friggin', Black and White remakes. Maybe we'll see this, maybe we'll see that. Okay, let's make something crystal clear. Pokemon stuff is not announced in Nintendo Directs, and they haven't been for a very long time. I think the last Pokemon game that I can think of that was announced in a regular Direct that wasn't a Pokemon Direct, Pokemon Presents, any of that stuff, was like... It probably wasn't this far. It probably wasn't this long ago. But it feels like it's been a very long time since that's been a thing. Pretty much the second that the Switch era started... I mean, they already mostly announced stuff in Pokemon Directs. But we got some... Like, I remember a Pokemon Shuffle. The 3DS game that they eventually put on mobile. That game was announced in a regular Direct in 2015. I remember that. But for the most part, even the spin-offs, it's all Pokemon Direct, because the Pokemon Company runs Pokemon, not Nintendo. That's why everything Pokemon is on its own channel. That's why, the website's completely different. That's why, it's a completely separate entity. Pokemon may be a Nintendo franchise, technically speaking, but administratively, it is completely separate. And that's why all the Pokemon stuff is always handled separately than the traditional Nintendo announcements, because Pokemon is not really a Nintendo franchise. It is, but it's not run by them, and it's this whole thing I could talk about in some other day. But the point is, we're not going to see anything Pokemon here, so no Scarlet Violet DLC, no spin-offs, no nothing, because that's going to be saved for a Pokemon Presents that the Pokemon Company will probably hold sometime this summer. It's about time we probably got another one, but yeah, just to make that crystal clear, we're not going to see anything Pokemon here whatsoever. Second thing I want to kill right here, right now. I know people have been asking for this for years and years, and it still hasn't happened, and especially with Tears of the Kingdom out the door, I think it's definitely not happening. So I'm just going to say it, even though it's not rumored or anything for this particular Direct as far as I know, we're not getting Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. It's not happening, guys. I'm sorry. It's one of those things where I feel like it's been too long. The time to have put that out would have been before Tears of the Kingdom. But they didn't. And now I'm like, well, now they're not going to. Or at least they're not going to on the current system. Now, granted, there's no real reason to save a port of a GameCube game to the next system. But I don't know, just for some weird reason, I think this is dead. I think this is dead in the water. If I'm wrong, that's great. I'd love to see these games get Switch ports. I'm not begging for them. I have both of these games on Wii U already. Heck, I haven't even played Twilight Princess. I have Twilight Princess HD sitting on the shelf, and I have not played it at all. One of these days I will, but I'm in no rush to buy these games to the Switch when they're not going to look and run any better. Because the Wii U versions of both of those games are already 1080p. So, how can they possibly look any better? The only thing I can really think of that would be improved would be 60 FPS. Which, to be fair, Skyward Sword HD, which I don't have at the moment, that is 1080p 60. So, that would probably be the big upgrade going from the Wii U to the Switch versions of those games, is you'd go from 1080p 30 to 1080p 60. I mean, it's cool and all, but, I'm not going to be jumping up and down over that. Will I get if the ports do come out, will I get them eventually? Sure, but I'm not gonna be in a rush for them. I haven't really bought most of the ports that have come out. The only ports I really have on the Switch are Mario Kart, but that barely counts because come on, it's Mario Kart. You can't not have Mario Kart. And then Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which I only got because me and Ethan, aka Duo Force, he wanted to do a playthrough of it. back when it first came out, and we actually did do that playthrough. Some of you guys from back then, you may actually remember. It was on that secondary channel that we made called the LSE Network. It was this whole thing. It failed. It flopped. We killed it. The channel's gone. It got renamed to like something else. I think that eventually became the Marvel channel I did for a brief period of time before I killed that too. And now I just have like the main 2 channels. But anyway, whole other separate conversation. Point is, that's a game I only got for the sake of doing videos, basically. I never even finished it. I forget how far in the game we got. I think we got to like World 4, and then we just stopped, and we never finished it, and I never finished it on my own, and those old videos are all gone. I still have them backed up from before I deleted them from the old channel, but yeah. Anyways, I have very few Wii U ports. Although I will say Wind Waker and Twilight Princess would definitely be higher up on the priority list than some of the others, just because they're Zelda games. But I don't even have Skyward Sword. I don't even have Skyward Sword. I have the original Skyward Sword on the Wii. I even have like that special edition that comes with like the soundtrack CD from the concert, as well as like the golden Wii remote, which unfortunately died a few years ago, or at least I think it died because it hasn't worked in forever. But anyways, I'm getting off track here. Point is, I don't think these are happening. I think it's a bit too little too late, and also I think it'd be really weird to like put the games out now after Tears of the Kingdom as opposed to before. But again, if they're like, hey, they're coming out finally, and they're coming out in October or whatever, then like, cool. But I think that at least for now, I think that's dead. And honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but admittedly I'm biased because I already have both of those games on Wii U, and they're already 1080p, so and I don't play on the go. See, we're going to talk about this more when we get to like the Persona stuff, but I'm not someone that has ever really cared about games coming to the Switch. There's obviously tons of people out there, especially on Twitter, infamously, that always are begging and pleading for like every game to come to the Switch. And I get it. I'm not knocking those people entirely here. There are plenty of people that are genuinely being, just like, hey, it'd be cool to have this game, and that's totally fine. But then obviously you have the people that go too far and kind of make a bad reputation. Because I feel like Switch beggars, as I've heard them referred to, have gotten a really bad reputation because of some of the people on Twitter, especially. Most infamously, King Goomba last year with the whole Persona 5 thing that went down. But again, we'll get to that when we get to Persona stuff later. But yeah, I've never been someone that's been like, please put this game on at least when it comes to third-party games. I should probably emphasize that. Third-party games, I could care less if they come to the Switch or not, because I'm never going to play them, because why should I spend $60 to play a significantly inferior version of a game when I could buy it on any other platform and it would be, like, way better? But, to be fair, I also don't play in handheld mode. If I played in handheld mode, that would be a different story, because that's the main benefit of a Switch port, is the portability. It's not the only portable way to play those games anymore, because obviously the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally and the Ionia, like all that stuff exists nowadays. So there are other handhelds out there where you can play those games on, but the Switch is by far the most common and most popular. Obviously, I mean, there's over 100 million units after all. But unless you're playing those third-party games on the go, there's no reason to buy those games on Switch when you can buy them on literally any other platform for the same price, if not cheaper, and they'll run and look way better. Which is one of the reasons why I was never big on the whole Persona 5 on Switch. I mean, I was for it coming to the Switch, but like, if it didn't come to the Switch, I wouldn't have cared. I already had it on PS4. So like, why should I don't know. That's just me. Obviously, if you all want Switch ports of games, that's totally cool. It's just, it's never been something I've cared about, because why should I spend that money on an inferior version of a game I won't even be able to take advantage of because I don't use handheld mode. I only play docked. But anyways, point is, this whole tangent has been going on way too long. Point is, no Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Boom, done, moving on. Second thing, I don't think anyone is actually expecting this. But I'm gonna bring it up because obviously, as I've been alluding to, we are approaching the end of the generation here. And people have been wondering, when is the Switch 2 going to get announced? Well, I can tell you where it won't be announced. Here. It is not going to be announced here because it is too early. They are going to save this for, at minimum, the September Direct. But I don't think it's even going to be there. I think it's going to be its own standalone event, just like what happened with the Switch in 2016. They're just going to announce one day out of nowhere, hey guys, tune in at 10 a.m. I think it was 10 a.m., right, for the Switch? Tune in at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to reveal our new... It's going to be literally the Switch all over again. There's going to be no prelude, no nothing, no direct. They're just going to be on Twitter one day. Hey, guys, we're announcing the console tomorrow. Tune in. I think it's just going to be a repeat. I think it's going to be a repeat of what happened in 2016. But the long and short of it is, no, it's not going to be here. No one's expecting it to be. I'm just bringing it up because obviously we are getting to that point where people are like, when's the Switch due? And finally, for the what won't be here category, I know a lot of people really want to see this, but we're not going to see Prime 4. But the reason why I don't think we're going to see it is because, well, one, and we'll get to this later on, but one, because we still haven't had 2 and 3 come out on Switch yet. We got 1 remastered earlier this year to universal critical acclaim, at only $40 too, which, you know, if you know Nintendo, that's like, whoa, they're giving, they're quote unquote giving away. Context matters, right? When we say giving away, they're giving away this game for only $40. For like for one of their like not new game, but like one of their like, you know, bigger series. You know, Metroid's one of their bigger or at least people treat it as one of their bigger series. Like that's a like that was kind of a big deal. It's one of the reasons why it was received so well. That and of course the fact that it's just a really good remaster and it's one of the best looking games on the system. But anyway. But we haven't had two, but of course they can't put out 1 and not put out 2 and 3, especially after Prime Trilogy was rumored for like 5 years. So they're not going to show Prime 4, probably, until 2 and 3 are at least announced, if not out the door on Switch first. But I think the main reason why we're not going to see it is because I have been waning on this. I've gone back and forth on this in the past, but the more time has gone on, and the more time we haven't seen it, the more I've started to believe that Prime 4 is going to be a Switch 2 game. Now, it may not be Switch 2 exclusive. I think it will either... I think is more than likely going to just be the Twilight Princess Breath of the Wild situation, where it will come out... It'll be promoted as a Switch 2 game first. Like people are... You know how Breath of the Wild was obviously announced as a Wii U game, but it came out on the Switch at the same time, and because of that... And because of the fact that Switch is way more successful, people think of it as a Switch game first and a Wii U game second. We're going to have that again, but with Metroid, where the game was announced for the Switch all the way back in 2017, and then it got rebooted in 2019, and we haven't heard pretty much anything about it since. And then when they start talking about it again, this will be like around the time that they all have announced. Maybe this will be in like a Switch 2 like event of some kind they hold, similar to like the Switch presentation we got in 2017, and they'll be like Metroid Prime 4 coming out late 2024 or whatever on Switch and Switch 2 or something. Like it'll still come out on the Switch because they announced it for the Switch, like how Breath of the Wild was announced for the Wii U and still came out on the Wii. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm imagining at this point. I'm leaning more so in the idea that it will be on the... They're waiting on the Switch 2 to show it off. It'll still be on the Switch. Although, in the past I have been like, well, but is Metroid big enough to justify a cross-gen release? That might sound weird to people, but like, Breath of the Wild was a big enough game that they could, quote, justify a cross-gen release for that, but I don't know if it's as big of a deal with Prime 4. Not that Prime 4 isn't a big deal, it's just not as big as Zelda. That's why I say that. But anyways, point is, I don't think Prime 4 is going to be here, and it's most likely because they're saving it for the Switch 2 before they start talking about it again. Even though it will probably still be on the Switch, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Okay, so we've gone over all the stuff that won't be here. Now let's talk about the stuff that is obvious. The obligatory stuff that we all know is gonna be here, either because it's confirmed to be here or because it's just so blatantly obviously gonna be here. First things first, Mario Kart 8 Wave 5. I don't think it's going to be the full trailer. I think they're going to do what they did last time, where they're going to tease us. They're going to show us like 1 or 2 courses, and then they're going to be like, and then they'll show us like the new character, because of course we have characters in the past now. So we're probably going to see like 1 or 2 new tracks, and then they'll show us like the new characters, and then that'll be it, and then they're gonna wait a few weeks, and then they're gonna put out the full trailer, because that's what they've been doing. Because it's funny, because when the Booster Course Pass was first announced, I interpreted it as, oh, this is gonna be their replacement for the Smash announcements, where they're gonna have they'll have a big Mario Kart thing every Direct, but that hasn't really panned out. For most of them, they've shown off the trailers just on their own. They'll just upload the trailers whenever. It's not really a part of a Direct. They might tease them in a Direct, like again the one we got in February when they were teasing Yoshi's Island being in it. But they won't like give us the full trailer and show us all the courses. They'll save that for later. I think that's going to continue. So we're going to see Wave 5, but we're not going to see all of it, and we're going to get, if not a release date, at least a release window. I'm guessing sometime in like July is my guess. Probably like mid to late July. It's just I'm just spitballing, but that's, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be June. I think it's going to be July. That sounds about the right time for it. And then the last pack, Wave 6, will come out in like October or November to round things out, and that'll be it for Mario Kart 8. And that'll also be the perfect time for that, kind of, because I'll mark again the end of the generation, the transition to the next generation, and then of course Mario Kart 9, but that's a whole other conversation. Mario Kart 9, that's a whole video in and of itself. Mario Kart 9, but anyways, but yeah. So Wave 5, we're gonna get at least a teaser of it here. The Splatoon 3 Side Order Story Expansion. So I have not played Splatoon in a bit. I like everyone else, I have been very preoccupied with Tears of the Kingdom. That's pretty much the only game I've been playing for the most part for the last month. Not entirely, but that's kind of like the main game I've been playing, and I'm still working on it. I'm like almost, I should check. I think I'm like 175 hours in now, which is funny because Breath of the Wild for me is like at 220. But the problem is it's not really 220, because that's only for the Switch version, because I didn't play the Switch version when it first came out. I got the game on Wii U at launch because I couldn't get a Switch. So I got the Wii U version, played that for 100 hours or whatever, beat it on there. And then I got the Switch version later when I got a Switch in April. And then that became my primary version from that point onwards. So realistically, I have like 300 something hours in that game, not 200 something because of the Wii U version. But either way, Tears of the Kingdom, despite having only been out for like a month, I'm at like 175. I don't know. I'm gonna cross the 200 mark probably by the end of the month. But yeah, so I've been putting a lot of time into that, and because of that, I haven't played the new Splatoon 3 update. You may have noticed that I didn't do a stream for it. Half that is because I just didn't want to play Splatoon right now, because again, Tears of the Kingdom, and also because honestly, I think I'm going to stop doing those Splatoon streams. They clearly do not do well. No one really shows up, and no one really cares. And frankly, honestly, they're not that big of a deal anyway. Like, okay, to be clear, I'm going to stream the expansion. That's a big enough deal. I'm going to stream that. But in terms of just like casual, like, doing like a Splatfest or a big run, I'm probably not going to do those anymore, really, unless it's like something really notable. Like, obviously, like for the final Splatfest, it's like a big event, I'll do that. But like, I think I'm going to chill out on doing the Splatoon streams, because I don't think they're really worth doing, honestly, at this point. And honestly, it's not really a big deal anyway. I don't think that's going to be a big loss for most people, considering that most people didn't even really show up to those anyway. They didn't really do all that well after the fact, but hey, it is what it is. It's not a big deal. But I'm just like a heads up that, like, yes, I will stream the Side Order DLC, but I'm not going to really do anything else in terms of Splatoon stuff, really. I think that's that ship has sailed, I think. We tried to make Splatoon kind of a regular thing, and it didn't really pan out. That's fine. It's not a big deal. But yeah, so Side Order. So, of course, this was announced in... It was first, like, formally shown off. It was first teased in the Splatoon 3 Direct last year, but we got our first teaser of it in the last Direct when they announced Inkopolis. We got to see, like, the Octoling in, like, Inkopolis Square from Splatoon 2. So yeah, we're gonna get a full proper trailer for that and a release date. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if it was at the end of June. But like Mario Kart, I'm thinking July. Probably early July, but like I'm thinking July is for when Side Order comes out. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say in regards to that. Everybody 1-2 switch. So this game, man, this game. If there's one game this generation that everyone is going to unanimously look back on and say, literally nobody asked for this. Because we all use the word literally all the time. Like, it's one of those words that's kind of lost its meaning, and I'm guilty of this too. We're all guilty of this. I mean, the whole literally, like, everyone uses it all the time. It's, like, kind of lost meaning. But this is one of the few times where I think using the term literally pretty much applies. Because who was asking for a sequel to the much-loved classic 1-2 Switch? That much maligned game that people unanimously agreed should have been a pack-in title. It wouldn't have been a good pack-in title regardless, but like it would have at least been a pack-in title. Yeah, that game. That game is a game that came out just to like have something else besides Breath of the Wild, because the Switch lineup was basically just Breath of the Wild and snipper clips. And 1-2 Switch just kind of existed. And no one really cared. It's a game that is basically a glorified tech demo, and I know that like all of the quote pack-in games have been glorified, but like Wii Sports and Nintendo Land are genuine games, especially Nintendo Land. Nintendo Land is awesome. You want to talk about a game that should receive like a port or like at least a sequel? That's a game. Nintendo Land is awesome. It's a great game. Only problem is that's a game they can't port because it relies a lot on the gamepad. Because again, it was the pack-in title that was all about showing off like the the Wii U gamepad and stuff. Not everything used the gamepad, but a lot of it did. So they can't really port that one. But like make a sequel to Nintendo Land, that'd be kind of cool. But anyways, yeah, 1-2 Switch is a game that everyone agreed was like a glorified tech demo that should have been a pack-in title. Like, what it really was, it was, like, calling it the Wii Sports or Nintendo Land equivalent is honestly kind of a disservice to Wii Sports and Nintendo Land, which are far better games. A more accurate description would be, it's more like the Switch's version of, like, Face Raiders. or something like that, where, like, it's a game, but, like, not really. I mean, okay, to be fair, I've never played 1-2 Switch, because why would I? But, yeah, this game, you get the idea. This game did not need a sequel. This game did not need a sequel, and what's funny is that Nintendo seemingly agrees, because apparently, this is not 100% confirmed, but apparently the people that have been testing it at Nintendo of America have had negative responses about the game when playtesting. So even the people at Nintendo playtesting it don't like this game. That's how maligned it is. They've been calling it, boring and like uninteresting and just like, it's like, yeah. This game doesn't need to exist. The only reason this game exists is for two reasons. One, the first game sold. It did not sell. Well, it sold like 1 million units, but it sold enough units for them to justify a sequel. 6 years after release. Weird timing, but whatever. But I think the main reason this game exists is probably just to fill up the lineup so they have something to release in 2023 that's new, that isn't a port, and is not Tears of the Kingdom. Because, like I've said earlier, there's not going to be that much left, I think, for the Switch at this point outside of ports, because everything that they have in development that's, like, big is going to be saved for the next console. So, yeah, like, Tears of the Kingdom was kind of their last really big title, I feel. So, yeah, everyone 1-2 Switch. I mean, they're going to show it. It's coming out in, like... Is it coming out in like on the 28th, or is it coming out in in July? I don't know. Either way, it's coming out. Everyone's already memed it and made fun of it, and it'll come out and then it'll be forgotten pretty much instantly. Like the original 1-2 Switch was pretty much forgotten until this game was announced. Yeah. Now there is one thing I will give them credit for. Even though this game should absolutely not exist and is a complete waste of time for the developers and the playtesters and everyone involved, this is a game that no one is going to look back on proudly from any side, I think. But I'm going to give them this. The game, last I checked, is only $30. So they have restraint. They're not trying to charge $60 for this like they did the first one. I will give him that. That is the one pro I can give him, and it's not a very big pro. It's, hey, at least it's not full price. Which, honestly, after Prime Remastered only being $40, that really makes me hope that maybe they've finally come to the realization that not everything can be $60. Because here's the thing, Nintendo. You can charge $60, hell, even $70 for your 10-pull releases. But if you think people are going to pay $60 or $70 for, like, your sports games, your smaller releases, you're crazy. Because people don't. You can look at the numbers. Outside of, like, Mario Party, none of the smaller games crack, like, the 2 or 3 million mark. They don't sell nearly as well as your 10-pull releases, and part of the reason for that, aside from just not being as big, is because you're charging the same price. So I'm glad that they actually have some restraint for once when it comes to the pricing, and not trying to squeeze $60 out of every little game they put out, regardless of whether it's worth it or not. Say what you will about Tears of the Kingdom being $70, but at least that's a game that people can agree, quote-unquote, justifies the price tag, at least in the sense that it's a big enough game to warrant the price tag. Whereas, like, imagine if we got, like, well, we'll talk about this in a sec, but, like, imagine if we got, like, a new Mario sports game and it was $70. People would be riding in the streets. That would be an absolutely awful idea. Because those games aren't even worth $60. Never mind $70, but we'll talk about Mario Sports in a bit here. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, everyone wanted to Switch. It's a big meme. It's dumb, pointless, but they're going to show it. And then finally, for stuff that's guaranteed to be here, Pikmin 4. Like, just obviously, Pikmin 4 is the only, like, notable game really that's coming out soon that outside of Tears of the Kingdom. You know, after Tears of the Kingdom, this is the next, like, kind of big game. I mean, it's not the biggest game in the world, but still, it's Pikmin. You know, it's a franchise people have wanted to see for forever. You know, Pikmin 4 was infamously teased, like, way back in 2015 when Miyamoto put out that famous quote about, "Oh yeah, the game's almost done." And that aged so poorly. And no, hey, Pikmin is not what that was. I know I've seen so many people over the years say, "Oh, he was talking about Hey Pikmin." No, he wasn't. I know for a fact that it's not what he was talking about. He was clearly talking about Pikmin 4. And then they didn't announce it until last year officially, 100%. It was crazy. We knew about that game. It was effectively official. Miyamoto literally talked about it in an interview. And he was like, "It's almost done, guys. It's almost done." And then it got pushed back or reworked, and then it's now finally coming out near the end of this generation, even though it was announced back in the Wii U era. But anyways, but yeah, Pikmin 4, it's finally coming out. A lot of people are obviously looking forward to it. It's not as big as, you know, Tears of the Kingdom or even Prime 4, I would argue, but it's definitely one of their, you know, big titles for the year, so to speak, even if it's not Zelda level, and obviously a lot of people are looking forward to it. There's even a decent chance we'll get a Prime 4 Direct, maybe later this summer, but because we did get a Pikmin 3 Direct back in the day. But then again, that was like 10 years ago. So, actually, the release date timing is going to line up pretty well. Because, yeah, Pikmin 3 came out on the Wii U in, like, summer 2013. Exactly 10 years. Because it's coming out in, like, July or August, right? I think it's July or August. I don't think it's September. Yeah, so it's going to be, like, exactly 10 years apart, pretty much. Which is kind of interesting in that respect. It's been literally 10 years since Pikmin 3. But anyways. So yeah, Pikmin 4, we're going to see that. They literally have already said it. I mean, it would be here, obviously, but they literally already said that it's going to be here. Okay, next up, rumors. I feel like I've been talking a long time. Yeah, we haven't even gotten to, like, everything yet. We haven't even gotten to, like, the really big stuff yet. We've just gone over the obvious stuff. We haven't even gotten to, like, the rumors and stuff yet. But here we are. Let's talk about rumors. So the first, rumor we're going to talk about is this from Zippo? I want to say this is from Zippo, who has a track record and has gotten things right, namely with Persona, off the top of my head. He leaked Persona coming to Game Pass like a year before it actually happened. I remember that. I think he also leaked Arena Ultimax coming to modern platforms. He also leaked that catchy game that still hasn't happened, but I think this rumor is from Zippo. I could be wrong. It might be from someone else, but either way, there is a rumor about F-Zero GX and the 1000 Year Door getting a port. one of these games being vastly more interesting to me than the other. So obviously F-Zero is a franchise that has gotten the short end of the stick for a very, very, very long time. Even within other franchises that he's in. I mean, obviously, F-Zero at this point is mostly known as like a Smash thing more than anything else, because Captain Falcon at this point, everyone's memed, oh, he's basically a Smash character. Because that's how long it's been since we had an F-Zero game, and most of the people that like Captain Falcon like him because of Smash. You know, he's such a staple in Smash that, like, yeah, he has become more of a Smash character than anything else at this point. But even in, like, but even then, I think he's gotten the short end of the stick in, like, Mario Kart. I mean, this is a whole other conversation for another day, but, like, it blows my mind that we have 2 F-Zero tracks and the Blue Falcon in Mario Kart 8, but not Captain Falcon himself. Like, how do you not put the man himself in the game when you have everything else there? Maybe Mario Kart 9, maybe he'll be one of the upcoming characters, who knows? But for, like, the past, but, like, that's such a, like, big oversight, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, so so F-Zero GX, obviously this is a game, I mean, if this game, this was like the last big console game. It wasn't the last F-Zero game period. That would have been Climax on the GBA, but F-Zero GX was the last, like, major title. It was on the GameCube. It was made by Sega Amusement Vision at Sega, actually. It was made by Sega, not Nintendo, funny enough. But yeah, this game, if this game got announced, obviously a lot of people would be excited for it. I can't say I'm one of them, but it'd be cool if it got announced, for sure. But then we have the announcement that I most certainly would care about. Although, honestly, probably not as much as I would have otherwise, because I feel like this is a bit too little too late, similar to, like, the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker thing. But the Thousand Year Door. Okay, so I'm going to give you some context with my history of the Thousand Year Door. The Thousand Year Door was the first Mario game I ever played, as far as I can remember. So my first ever video game console was the GameCube. I got it for Christmas in 2006, and we got 3 games: The Thousand Year Door, Animal Crossing, and Cars, as in, like, you know, the movie, like the game based off the movie. And The Thousand Year Door is because of that, it's like one of the first, like, you know, is one of the first, you know, Mario and Nintendo games I ever played. And obviously, it's a really good game, as you can probably imagine. It's still, all these years later, lauded as one of the best Mario games of all time. Certainly one of the best spin-offs, and the best game in the Paper Mario series almost universally. Although some people may argue the original N64 game is better. I still think the Thousand Year Door is better, but the original game's good too, obviously. Heck, I think even Super is a good game. It's different, but I think it's a good game on its own. But obviously, that's the state of the Paper Mario series is a whole other conversation. But actually, that in and of itself is also why I think this game would be interesting. Obviously, this game getting a modern port, 1080p, widescreen would be awesome, just because it's a great game. But I also think it would matter because, you know how people talk about voting with your wallet and how it basically doesn't work? Like, people always talk about vote with your wallet, but it never, ever actually works. At least in gaming, it just doesn't work. That mentality doesn't work, at least in gaming. This is one of the few times where I think it might actually work. And the reason I say that is because Paper Mario infamously has changed a lot since the Thousand Year Door. And when Origami King came out a few years ago, there was an interview with some guy at Nintendo talking about how, like, we can't make original characters anymore because of, like, the legal team. There was this whole spiel about how they basically can't make the Paper Mario games they used to, or at least partly. I don't know. It was this whole weird thing that I'm surprised they were that upfront with, because Nintendo is famously very secretive. So the fact that he was like, oh yeah, the reason why we don't have, because you know how in Color Splash people were complaining about how, like, oh, all the Toads are generic. Like, he basically had an explanation as to why the characters aren't, like, unique. They don't have unique designs and personalities. It was like some legal thing where they want Mario to be like a certain thing and they can't really stray from it as much as they used to. Or something like that. I don't know. That's like one of the reasons why Paper Mario has drifted so much from where it used to be, but anyway. However, if there's one thing that can change their mind, if there is one thing that could change Nintendo and Illumination and Intelligent Systems' mind on the direction of Paper Mario, I think it'd be this port. If the Thousand Year Door HD comes out, and it does well, like, at least well by Paper Mario standards. Like, if it does in particular, if it does better than Origami King. I don't know how well, I don't know. Paper Mario has never been like a strong seller, but like Origami King, I don't know how many units that sold. I know it sold at least 1 million, but probably not much more than that. If the 1000 Year Door HD could sell like 2 million or 3 million, like if it sold a number bigger enough than Origami King, that might finally be the kick that they need to finally go back in that direction and be like, wow, people really like the 1000 Year Door, maybe we should make more games like it. So honestly, for that reason alone, never mind the game itself, this might be one of the very few times where I think that voting with your wallet in the opposite direction this time, supporting something as opposed to boycotting it, might actually make a difference. Because most of the time when people talk about voting with your wallet, they're talking about boycotting. But there's also the other way around, you know, supporting something because you want to see more of it. And what is something people have been complaining about for like a decade? They want Paper Mario to go back to the way it used to be. They want a real story. They want unique locations, unique characters with personality. They want the partners back. They want the old combat back. They want to go back to Paper Mario being Mario's story as opposed to Paper Mario. For those of you who don't know the context behind that, the name, at least the original name for Paper Mario in Japan, was Mario Story, because it was the first Mario RPG before we got like the Mario and Luigi games and stuff. Rip Mario and Luigi, rip Alpha Dream. But of course nowadays they've completely shifted away from Paper Mario being about Mario RPG, and now it's all about paper, right? That's been like kind of the meme, is like it's all about the paper. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the newer like Color Splash and Origami King look great, but it's not Paper Mario. So you know that classic statement that people like to throw around, particularly for Zelda, about this is a good game, but it's not a good blank game. Like all the people that were like, Breath of the Wild is a good game, but it's not a good Zelda game. You could take that and you could apply it to at least not Sticker Star. Sticker Star, for as maligned as it is, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be, but it is definitely by far the worst. Even when it first came out, when I was like 12, I didn't think it was that great. Even back then, I thought it was pretty whatever. I didn't hate it, but I thought it was pretty whatever. But I also didn't treat it like super badly like everyone else, because I thought of it as like this handheld spin-off that doesn't really matter. It wasn't until Color Splash came out that it became a problem, because Color Splash was the first console game since Super Paper Mario. Although I actually did play Color Splash. I didn't buy it when it came out, but I played it through like GameFly. You remember GameFly? They're still around, actually. And I actually played through not all of it, but like a decent amount of it, and honestly, I like Color Splash. It's not Paper Mario, but as its own like Mario just like game in general, yeah, it's good. It looks awesome too. It's a great looking Wii U game. But it's not Paper Mario. And I haven't played Origami King, but I assume it's more or less, you know, it's Color Splash 2 as far as I can tell, essentially, kind of building on that. So Color Splash and Origami King are good Mario games, but they are not good Paper Mario games, and that's the whole problem with it, right? That's because I think at this point, like, you know, Sticker Star, that can be left in the dustbin. That game doesn't. Yeah, that game's pretty whatever. But Color Splash and Origami King, those are decent games. They just shouldn't have been Paper Mario. If they weren't Paper Mario, I think people would like them more than they do. But because they're Paper Mario, it's the Federation Force problem of. Okay, now granted, Federation Force, even when it came out, and even after you put all the baggage aside from it being a Prime game, technically, people didn't think was amazing. But, like, I've heard that game is actually decent. If you just ignore the fact that it's a Prime, because that was the big controversy. People didn't hate the game because of the game, they hated it because it was Metroid Prime. I remember when the game was announced under Blast Ball. Anyone remember Blast Ball? It was at the Nintendo World Championships in 2015, and they like teased it under Blast Ball, which was like the multiplayer thing. And then at the infamous E3 2015 Direct, a few days later, we got the official announcement. That's when it was like Federation Force. People lost their minds. They got disliked to death and all that fun stuff. But anyways, I'm dragging this part out too long. Point is, the 1000 Year Door HD will not only just be a good idea because it's obviously a great game, but also because it might finally be the opportunity that the fans need to finally show Nintendo that this is the Paper Mario we want. Again, vote with your wallet works the other way too. It's not just about boycotting, it's also about supporting the things you want. And if people want to see the 1,000-Year Door, like they want to see that come back, then I think buying the 1,000-Year Door HD might. Obviously, who knows? It's Nintendo. They're a weird company that beats to their own... What's the saying everyone talks about? Beats to the beat of their own drum. Whatever the saying that everyone has said for like 5 years. Like, you know, they're weird, right? They're very weird with how they operate sometimes. So, who knows if they'll actually if they'll actually take the hint? But I'd hope that if the game does sell really well, if it sells like better than Origami King, especially, that will finally be the kick in the ass they need to be like, oh, we need, okay, people clearly like this, let's make more of it. And then maybe the Paper Mario game we get for the next console will be more in line with 1,000-Year Door and not Color Splash, but that's just wishful thinking. But yeah, so 1,000-Year Door HD, do I think it's gonna be here? I'm gonna say no. I don't know, just for some reason the 1,000-Year Door HD sounds like such a pipe dream. You know, it's up there with Melee HD in like, this is so not gonna happen territory. Maybe not quite as high as that, but like, it's still, I don't know, I just don't see it happening. I mean, obviously if it does, awesome. And it will probably be one of the few ports that I actually buy for no other reason, just to show them that we want more of this. I may even stream it, because I haven't played the 1,000-Year Door in a very long time. I haven't played it in, like, maybe a decade, if not that close to it. Like, I haven't replayed that game in a very long time. And one of the reasons for that is because I've been waiting to see if they do a port. And the thing is, the 1,000-Year Door HD wouldn't even need that much remastering, because the 1,000-Year Door still looks great. Like, the GameCube original still looks fantastic. It has a timeless art style. That does not need any major updates. All they have to do is just up-res some of the textures, make it widescreen, and you're done. It does not need anything more than that. That game still looks great all these years later. But yeah, 1,000-Year Door HD. Is it going to happen? I'm going to lean towards no because it's such a pipe dream. But if it does, that would be really cool. It would definitely be one of the highlights of the showcase. Next up, new 2D Mario. This has been rumored actually for the last couple of Directs, I think. Alongside that new Donkey Kong game that's never happened. That's not rumored for this one, by the way, Donkey Kong, so I'm not going to talk about it. But like, new 2D Mario. Specifically, not New Super Mario Bros. Because the last original, not counting the Mario Maker games, the last true 2D Mario we had was in 2012 with New Super Mario Bros. U. And we have not had a new proper one since. And while I am not dying for a new 2D Mario, honestly, at this point, all I really want is just a new 3D Mario, but we'll get to that in a bit. But I mean, if we got a new 2D Mario, I think, yeah, at this point, I would want to be something original. Like, yeah, we've done the New Super Mario Bros. Series. It had its day. I like most of them. If you want to know my ranking, I think the original on the DS is the best one, followed by Wii, then U, and then 2 is very much at the bottom. I don't think 2 is terrible. I think a lot of people give 2 a bit hard of a time. The worst thing I can say about 2 is that it's very derivative. It's very derivative and generic. It's the most generic and derivative New Super Mario Bros. Game of all of them. It's pretty forgettable. But that doesn't make it bad. It's just pretty forgettable, I think. I mean, I haven't played it in like a very long time. I've replayed all of the other New Super Mario Bros. Games multiple times over the years. I've never gone back and played 2. I mean, I can't play 2 now because I don't have a 3DS anymore, although there's nothing stopping me from booting up Citra and playing it that way. Maybe I'll do that at some point. But anyways, yeah, so new 2D Mario, that'd be cool. It's obviously been a very long time since we've had a proper new one. Even if it was just New Super Mario Bros., like, I'd be fine with that, honestly, at this point. But it'd be definitely nice if it was something original for 2D Mario. Do I think it's going to be here? 2D Mario is not big enough that it makes sense to save it for the next console. I mean, New Super Mario Bros. U was a Wii U launch title, but it did not need to be on the Wii U. It could have been on the Wii. If they wanted to put it on the Wii, they could have. There's nothing in that game that requires them for it to be on the Wii U. I mean, it looks nice on the Wii U, it being HD and everything, but it's, it's very much, a sequel to Wii. Like, I mean, obviously it is, but like, it doesn't need to be a Wii U game. But anyway, So like the new 2D Mario, I could see it maybe as like that could be their holiday title, because they don't have a holiday title. Again, because the system is like coming to a close here in terms of like big new releases. But maybe the new 2D Mario could be their last like 10-pull kind of ish title. I mean, it wouldn't be as big as a 3D title, but it'd be like, hey, it's a new 2D Mario. We haven't had one of those in forever. Again, not counting Mario Maker. I'm not counting Mario Maker. That doesn't count, in my opinion. It's a new 2D Mario, but yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I could see it, but we'll see. I'm not super sold on it. Okay, Mario Baseball. I think this was rumored for the last Direct and never happened, but the only reason I'm really bringing this up is not because it's rumored for this specific Direct, but because people have been talking about, hey, look, there's a baseball game where they have Mario with the baseball bat. People are like, Mario Baseball confirmed? No, no, it is not. I'm pretty sure I've seen that render before. That's just a stock Mario render that they've had like forever. I don't think that's no. He's holding a baseball bat because it's at a baseball event. A baseball game, not because it's a teaser or anything, or it's new assets. Like, no, that doesn't mean anything. If there is a Mario baseball game here, it'll be just because it's a new game, not because of they were teasing anything. Although, I think, okay, I have never cared for the Mario sports games. Not back in the day, not now. But I think now especially is probably the worst time they could do a new Mario baseball game, because it's the only game they haven't done yet. We've had Mario Tennis, we've had Mario Golf, and we have had Mario Strikers come back. We have not had Mario Baseball, Super Sluggers, I should say, more specifically. But I think at this point, I think everyone will agree that there's no point in doing it. Because, to be frank, people are burned out, right? People are burned out and have just been burned in general by the Switch era of the sports games. Now, yes, none of them have been on the level of Ultra Smash. Ultra Smash, which was a Wii U game, not a Switch game, is still like the most egregious offender. But all of the Switch games we've had so far have been like whatever at best. They've been kind of just, yeah, it's all right, Like, even like Strikers, which was maligned last year for its lack of content, I don't think most people would call a terrible game. Just a very underwhelming. Like, that's probably the best word I could describe all of them. Now, granted, I haven't played like any of them because I don't care about the Mario sports games, and I have no interest in getting any of them. But the best word that you could probably describe is just underwhelming for, like, all of them. Aces, Super Rush, Strikers, Battle League, I think is what it was called. Like, all of them, underwhelming, lack of content, all the obligatory. It's practically become a meme at this point, the Mario sports games. And I assume that if there was a baseball game, it would be the exact same problem. The game will get announced. There might be cool stuff in it, but people are going to be extremely skeptical because of the past history with the sports games. And then it'll come out, and then people will complain about the lack of content, and then they'll announce new updates that add new stuff, but don't add enough new things to really justify the game still. Like, it's going to be that whole problem with the Mario sports games, but just for baseball. Like, do we really want to see that again? Do we really want another Mario sports game that like under-delivers and people don't like and gets people like, going at each other on Twitter? No, I don't think we do. So while I admittedly have no love for any of the Mario sports games, I've never cared for them. The only Mario spin-offs I really care about is Mario Party somewhat, not a ton, but somewhat. Mario Kart, obviously, but Mario Kart's not even a spin-off at this point. Mario Kart is its own beast in and of itself. It's basically on par with the mainline series in terms of importance at this rate, which is the reason why Mario Kart 9 has been so requested. But again, it's a whole other conversation for another day. But what was I doing here? I've been talking for so long, and we're still not done yet. I've lost track of thought. But yeah, so. Oh yeah, and Paper Mario. Again, more so back in the day when it was like the 1000-Year Door style, and even Super Paper Mario. But nowadays, Paper Mario is kind of on the same level as like Like, I mean, I don't know. We already talked about Paper Mario, so I'm not gonna go back into that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, but you get my point. Like, I don't care about the sports games. I care about Mario Kart and somewhat Mario Party and current Paper Mario. But that's it. Anything else, I could care less about. Mario Tennis, Mario Hoops 3-on-3, Mario any of those other like sports games or whatever. Like, I don't care about those. Never have. Probably never will. Even if the games were good, even if the games were the best game in the series, like the Mario baseball game could come out and it could be universally agreed upon as the best game in the 2 or 3 game series. I think it only has like 2 games in it, like Strikers. And I still wouldn't care. So admittedly, I'm biased when I say that this game doesn't need to exist, but I think especially after people have been burned by the last couple of sports games, I think most people will agree that this game doesn't need to exist, at least not under the way they would probably do it. And that's all I really gotta say in terms of rumors. There's probably more rumors I haven't seen or I've forgotten about, but those are the main ones I want to talk about. And now let's get into the closing part here. We're going to talk about kind of just other stuff that I think, well, we might see here, or I want to see here. So first things first, I alluded to this earlier on when I was talking about Prime 4, but yeah. Prime 2 and 3 remastered. We had Prime 1 remastered. Universal acclaim, big success. And you can't put out Prime 1 and not put out 2 and 3. Now, the rumor has been that 2 and 3 are going to just be straight ports. Like, 1 was basically a remake. It was remastered, but it was remastered in the same way that, like, Xenoblade Definitive Edition was a remaster. Yeah, it was a remaster, but it's basically a remake in terms of graphics. It's effectively a remake. I think, but the rumor for 2 and 3 is that they're just going to be regular ports of the GameCube games. Or GameCube and Wii, because Prime 3 was a Wii game. They're just going to be ports. They're just going to be the games, but they're 1080p and widescreen. They're like, basically the trilogy. It's going to be the trilogy versions of those games where it's 1080p and widescreen. But they're not going to be, like, effective remakes. They're not going to have a big overhaul like the first game did. Which, if true, is kind of disappointing, but at the end of the day, just having the games on the platform is what matters, because it'd be really awkward to have 1 and not have 2 and 3 when 4 is coming out for it, apparently. Supposedly. Again, this goes back to the whole conversation of, is Prime 4 going to be on the Switch, or is it going to be on the Switch too? I already talked about that, but anyway. But yeah, will it be here? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they saved it for, like, the September Direct. But I'd say it has about 50-50 chance. I could see them waiting, but I could see them announcing it. I do think if they announce it, it'll probably... Will they announce them together? Because I could see them announcing just 2, and I can see them doing 2 and 3. To be clear, I don't think 2 and 3 would come out on the same day. They'd probably do, like, okay, let's say Prime 2 was announced in this Direct. It'll probably come out in, like, September. Like, they'll probably come out in, like, September, and they'll be like, hey, in the September Direct, they'll be like, hey, it's coming out after the presentation, and then they'll announce in that Direct, hey, Prime 3 will come out in, like, December or January or something, like early 2024, and then Prime 4 comes out in, like, late 2024 on the Switch 2 or whatever. But I don't know. Either way, Prime, the other Prime games getting announcements, I'd say 50-50 chance, but I won't be surprised if they get saved for the September Direct. Okay, so as you can probably guess by the nearly hour I've been talking here, this has been focused exclusively on first-party games, but there is one set of third-party games I think I need to talk about. I've alluded to it. I already did kind of a whole spiel about it kinda already, but let's talk about it proper. So, at the Xbox Showcase a few weeks ago, we of course got the official announcement of both Persona 5 Tactica and Persona 3 Reload. The Tactica being just like another P5 spin-off based on tactics, kind of like Fire Emblem and XCOM and stuff, which actually will probably be a decent game, but obviously no one really cares about all that much right now, because the main focus is all about Persona 3 Reload, which is the highly anticipated Persona 3 remake that people have been asking for like forever. And it looks pretty good. There are some caveats to it, obviously, as I'm sure everyone's heard by now. FemC and the Answer are not going to be in it, unfortunately, which does suck. It does legitimately suck, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal, at least for me personally, because I haven't played Persona 3 yet. I've been deliberately waiting to see what happens with Persona 3. I have played Persona 5 multiple times, both Vanilla and Royal. I've played Strikers, I've played the dancing games, I've played Persona 4, I've been working on some of the other games, but I have not played Persona 3. And even though Portable came out earlier this year, and the reason why is because I wanted to see. Well, first, back when the anniversary was happening, and there were rumors of ports. Like everyone else, I was hoping that it would be FES, because I consider FES, like a lot of people, to be like the, quote, true version of the game. I mean, nothing wrong with Portable. Portable obviously has its pros, like the controllable party and the FEMC and all the new social links and all that stuff. But FES is like the true, proper main version of the game. I can't call it the original, because technically the original would be the original, but you get my point. FES is effectively the original game with the answer stapled on, as well as a couple of new things like the IGUS social link and stuff. Anyways. Yeah, but I was waiting back then, when the anniversary was happening, to see if they would port FES. Because if they were going to port FES, I'd play FES then. They didn't. They chose Portable, which was very controversial, obviously, when they choosing Portable over FES. But I remember back then people speculating that maybe the reason they chose Portable is because they have a remake coming. Well, the people that were saying that, you were right on the money, because that is 100% why they did it. There's no official interview or anything stating this, but it is beyond obvious now that the game has been announced that the reason why Persona 3 Portable was not only chosen, but also why it was like kind of slapdash in comparison to the other ports, was because the remake was coming. It was a secondary. It was like Persona 5 Royal and the Golden ports are really good, and then the Portable port is at best okay. It has compressed audio. It has the infamous waifu 2x upscaled backgrounds. I mean, it's not the worst port ever, but it's definitely not what people wanted, even from Portable. Never mind FES. And it's obvious that one of the reasons also why they did it was not just because the remake was coming, but also because they're not putting FEMC in the remake. But again, that's a whole other conversation that people have already talked about. Yeah. But long story short, yes, I think FEMC and the answer should have been in the game, but I'm not that annoyed that they're not in there. Especially because we may get them later, but that's that gets into a whole other conversation about, because people have already been memeing like, I can't wait for Persona 3 Reloaded to come out in 2026 and have everything for $70 or whatever. Honestly, I'm kind of half and half on whether or not we're gonna get like Reloaded, an enhanced version because yes, obviously, if this was Persona 6, like, of course Persona 6 is gonna get an enhanced re-release, but I think it'd be weird for them to do a re-release of a remake. That seems weird to me. I feel like, if anything, they would just do DLC, which people still wouldn't like, but I think they would probably like more than a straight-up re-release. Like, if you could choose between FEMC and Answer DLC or just a re-release, I think a lot of people would choose DLC. Honestly, I'm kind of weird. I would actually prefer a re-release if for no other reason than that means we get a new physical copy with all the stuff on the disc. This is one of the reasons why I actually liked that Royal was its own game and not just a DLC or an update, because it meant we got new physical copies that had everything on disc and it was preserved. That's admittedly a very niche way of looking at it from like a preservation standpoint, like a physical media standpoint, but for physical media enthusiasts, having a re-release is better than having DLC, because it means you get that stuff on disc. And these are games I want to have on disc. Although, ironically enough, I don't know if I'm going to be buying either of these games because they're on Game Pass. I would have bought them day one on maybe not Tactica. That one I probably don't need to play day one. But like Persona 3 Reload, that would have been a day one PS5 physical copy, which, by the way, it is on PS. Yeah, for anyone that's like has not been paying attention to all the recent news when it comes to these new Persona games, it has been officially confirmed. We're going to get to the reason why we're talking. I know I'm getting off track. We're going to talk about the Switch. We're going to address the elephant in the room. I promise. We'll get to it. But for those of you that have not been paying attention, ever since they were first announced at the Xbox Showcase, it has been officially confirmed that Tactica is coming to everything, you name it. Series X, Series S, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, Microsoft Store, Steam, and Game Pass. It is on literally everything. But Reload, transitioning into the main reason why we're supposed to be talking about this, has only been confirmed for Series X and S, Xbox One. It'll, of course, also be on Game Pass. And then PS5, PS4, Microsoft Store, and Steam. I believe Steam... Has Steam been confirmed? I think Steam has been confirmed. If Steam hasn't been confirmed, it will be. Like, come on, all the Persona games are on Steam. But famously, the Switch was left out. And a lot of speculation as to why the Switch version of that game in particular was left out was because it was being saved for a partner showcase like what happened last year. Because we've been through this before. Last year at the Xbox event, we got the Persona 3, 4, and 5 ports announced, but only for Xbox. Then a few days later, they were confirmed for PlayStation. Sound familiar? And then later that month at the Nintendo Partner Showcase Direct, we got the announcement of them all coming to the Switch. And so far, that pattern has lined up perfectly for Reload, and Tactica even. Both games, when they were announced at the Xbox event, were only confirmed for Xbox and PC, as well as Game Pass. Then a few days later, we got confirmation of PlayStation and Steam for Reload, and then PlayStation, Steam, and Switch for Tactica. And now we're waiting for a Nintendo event, which we thought was going to be a partner showcase, but is now just a regular direct, to give us confirmation that Reload, and we're going to talk about this in a bit as well, but also Metaphor ReFantasia, which is Project ReFantasy, the game that was announced like forever ago and is finally now coming out, which is awesome, and it looks pretty cool. From the same guys, Hashino, Soejima, like the whole crew, the whole Persona crew from the last few games is on that, so it's obviously going to be a pretty good game, I'm sure. But anyways. But the pattern is lining up. Everyone can clearly see the pattern is lining up pretty well for Reload to be announced for Switch at this direct. But here's the one flaw in that thinking. Here's the one flaw in that theory. They already confirmed Tactica for the Switch when they announced PlayStation and Steam, but not Reload. So a lot of people are like, well, if they already did it for Tactica, why wouldn't they have done it for Reload? Wouldn't it be weird? Like that seems like weird. But I think this explanation is very simple. The reason why they announced Tactica for Switch already, but not Reload, is very, very simple to explain. Reload is a way, way bigger deal than Tactica is. So Atlus and Nintendo probably figured it's not worth saving for a direct. They don't need to save the announcement of Tactica for Switch in a direct because no one cares about that game. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it's gonna be a fun little game. I'm gonna play it. It's on Game Pass. I don't know if I'm gonna buy it though. I would have got like a PS5 copy of it otherwise, but since it's on Game Pass, I might just play it through that. Persona 3 Reload, though, we'll have to see. This is a spectacularly first world problem, but now it's like, dang it, Atlus, I want to give you money for a physical copy of these games, but now I don't want to because I don't have to anymore. It's such a weird first world problem. It was like, dang it, Atlus, why do they have to be on Game Pass? Now I can't give you money. I know that sounds extremely weird, but I want physical copies, right? Like, if the games were digital only, then yeah, it wouldn't matter. But, like, I want physical copies of both of these games on PS5, but now I don't have to buy them. Especially Tactica, because it's obviously not nearly as important. So I might just play both of those games on, like, PC or Series X, honestly. And then maybe down the line, I get, like, physical copies for PS5 when they get, like, cheap or something. Which is actually what I just did recently, because I never bought Royal on PS5 because, like, there was no reason for me to. Royal on PS5, for those of you who don't know, infamously did not get a free upgrade or even a $10 upgrade, which shocked me. Okay, like, not getting a free upgrade is one thing, but I was very surprised that we didn't get even a $10 upgrade path. Like, come on, even, like, Activision and Sony give you a $10 upgrade, but they didn't give you jack squat. If you want 60 FPS and native 4K, you gotta pay all over again. And obviously, with it also being on Game Pass, it's like, well, no, I'm not gonna buy it now. Oh wait, I want to have the PS5 version just for collecting purposes, but I'm not gonna spend $60 on that. Are you insane? Not when I spent $60 on it on PS4 when it came out in 2020, and I can just play the newer version on PC or Series X at 4K 60 if I want the new experience anyway. But right now it's $20 on Amazon, so I'm like, you know what? Screw it. It's $20. That's cheap enough. That's pretty much what I bought the original Persona 5 for on eBay in like 2019 when I first got into the series. But you know what? That's cheap enough. I can justify that. $20. Get Persona 5 Royal on PS5. Throw that on the shelf. But anyways, I'm dragging this out. We're supposed to be talking about the Switch version here, but anyways. But yeah, so the long and short of it is basically Nintendo and Atlus's thinking is probably, okay, Tactica is not big enough to justify holding back. It's not big enough to justify holding back for a Direct because no one cares about that game nearly as much as Reload. But Reload is like, it's a mainline game. It's like how FF7 Remake, it's not a new game, but it's on the same level as a mainline game. It's that big of a deal, right? So that's what I think is going on. Tactica was announced first because Tactica doesn't matter, but they're saving Reload because they know Reload matters. Same for Metaphor, because Metaphor was, again, announced for Series X and PC at the Xbox event, and then a few days later they confirmed it's coming out on PS5, PS4, and Steam. I believe Steam was confirmed. At least PS5 and PS4 I know for a fact were there. And again, if it's not confirmed for Steam, it will be on Steam. Don't worry, all the Atlus games are on Steam. It's not going to be exclusive to like the Epic Games Store or something like that. I don't think any of the Persona games are on the Epic Games Store now that I think about it, which is actually a little surprising because most games nowadays come out on Epic Games Store, even if they're not exclusive to it, they'll still put them out on there. So it's maybe a little surprising, but anyway. Maybe the Microsoft deal is what's preventing them from doing that. But then again, they're on Steam. Well, see, here's the funny thing, though. That whole, like, oh, is the game going to be on Steam? That whole thing, I'm surprised that's even a thing that matters. Because, like, Microsoft puts their games on Steam now. Like, even if the game was Xbox and PC exclusive, it would be on Steam. Because Microsoft puts all their games on Steam now. This isn't the days of the Xbox One where they had all their games on the Windows Store. People still call it the Windows Store, by the way. This is such a minor tangent, but like, why do people still call it the Windows Store? It hasn't been the Windows Store in like forever. It's the Microsoft Store. I get it, it's semantics, it doesn't matter, but I'm just pointing it out because people still call it the Windows Store, even though it hasn't been called that since like 2017 or 2016. It's been like forever since it's been called that. It's been the Microsoft Store for like 5-6 years now, but whatever. Point is, both Reload and Metaphor are confirmed for PlayStation and Steam, but not the Switch. And the reason why they probably haven't been yet is because those are games that they wanted to save for a Direct. So the long and short of this entire conversation is, do I think that these games will be here? Both of them. I think they'll both. It's either going to be both or none. I don't think they're going to do one or the other. I think they will both be confirmed for Switch in this event. The pattern lines up. Normally, like, patterns don't mean as much as they used to, but this is a pattern that's, like, very obvious. The pattern is literally exactly the same as it was for the ports last year. Yes, it will be announced here. Both of them, I think. Both Reload and Metaphor. And last but not least, let's address the big one that isn't Reload or whatever. Actually, no, one more thing. We're not going to see 3D Mario. I know I kind of implied it earlier, but like, no, we're not going to see 3D Mario. 3D Mario is being saved for the next system, especially if they have a 2D Mario game coming out. They're going to save like Odyssey 2 or whatever. I don't think it's going to be Odyssey 2, by the way. I think the next 3D Mario is going to be an original game, not a sequel to Odyssey, but yeah. The next 3D Mario is going to be like a Switch 2 launch title or something, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We'll get to that whenever we do a Switch 2 video, because I'm going to do a Switch 2 video, right? It's like a destiny. Like, I'm going to have to do a Switch 2 video of some kind at some point. Maybe once we get closer to its announcement. Maybe once we get to like September or something, we'll start talking about it more, but anyway. Yeah, so no 3D Mario. But let's get to the last big thing people are going to be wondering if it's going to be in this Direct or not. That isn't Persona 3. Tears of the Kingdom DLC. Is it going to happen, and will it be announced tomorrow? Because there is a faction right now that is basically, is it too early or not? Because on the one hand, the Breath of the Wild DLC was announced before the game came out. But this game has not announced any DLC. So that combined with the fact that the game is already huge and it's already, it originally started as DLC for the last game. Like honestly, up until this point, I've kind of been of the opinion that, like, you know what? They might not do it for this one. That might be throwing money away, because obviously Tears of the Kingdom DLC is free money. Like, everyone's gonna get it. But, like, I actually genuinely think it's a 50-50 at this point. Because on the one hand, it's free money and everyone would love it. We'd all get it. But at the same time, I don't think the game... I mean, not that Breath of the Wild needed it either, but, like, I don't think this game needs DLC. I know that doesn't really matter, but, like, this game, I can totally see it not getting DLC. Because it was already built off the back of the last game. And, of course, it infamously is $70. I could see that being, hey, the game is $70, but we're not going to have DLC. That might be a justification they have. They've never said that, obviously. They want to leave the door open. For all we know, they weren't going to do DLC, but because the game sold 10 million units in 3 days, they were like, okay, now we got to do it. I don't know. But I honestly, I'm 50-50 on it. I could see the game getting DLC because it's such an obvious thing to do. Especially to, like, fill up their holiday slate with something while we're waiting on the Switch 2. But at the same time, I could see them not doing it and just being like, no, this is Tears of the Kingdom. They might put out, like, an update that adds, like, something minor. But, like, in terms of, like, expansion pass, I could see them not doing it, honestly. I could genuinely see them skipping it for this game. That might sound crazy, but I could see them not doing it. But the real question right now is, would it be announced already? Because the game is only a month old. Is it too soon? Again, I'm kind of half and half on this. On the one hand, I still am not done with the game. Again, like I said earlier, I'm still working on it. So I'm not even finished with the base game yet. Never mind anything that comes after that. However, then again, a month isn't... I don't know. Okay, yep, here's what I'll say. If we don't get DLC announced here, it will probably get announced in... Because September is long enough. That will be 3-4 months out, like, post Tears of the Kingdom. That would be the perfect time to announce DLC. Doing it now, people would still be, I think, mostly excited for it, but some people would probably be like, it's too early. But if they did it but I think September would be... I think if they're gonna announce DLC, I think they should save it for September. Now, granted, if they announced DLC tomorrow, it wouldn't come out tomorrow. It would just be announced. They'd be like, hey, here's the expansion pass. Wave 1's coming out in September. Wave 2's coming out in, like, December or January. They do something like that. Kind of like what we got with the first game, Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild's expansion pass was announced before release. And we got our first announcement for Wave 1, the Trials, at E3 2017. Then it came out later that month. And then we got the Champions Bout announced at the Game Awards. And then it came out the same day. So that would have been... So the game came out in March, Wave 1 came out in June, and then Wave 2 came out in December. So if we're going by that logic, assuming that pattern repeats itself, it would line up, I think, for at the very least Wave 1 coming out in September. Maybe it doesn't get announced then, but it might get... So maybe the pass gets announced tomorrow, and then in September, Wave 1 comes out, and then in, like, January or February, Wave 2 comes out, or something. I don't know. Long story short, the DLC itself just happening for the game at all, I think is kind of 50-50, but will it be announced tomorrow? I think, regardless of whether or not the DLC actually exists, I don't think it's going to be announced tomorrow. I think if it does exist, they are going to save it for the September Direct. And give the spotlight to, like, Pikmin 4 and like, the new 2D Mario if that gets announced and stuff like that. And let Tears of the Kingdom kind of just sit there for a little bit. Because it's already, doing fine as is, obviously. They don't need to announce DLC for it already. And then in September, once, most people have kind of, finished their initial playthrough and they've kind of done everything in the base game, then that can be like, okay, here's the first wave or whatever. But that's going to be what I say. I think if the DLC exists, it will not be announced tomorrow. They will save it for September. And that being said, that is everything. That went on for longer than just like my Xbox discussion, the Xbox predictions discussion, that one went on for a long time too. This one went on like just as long, I think, if not longer. An hour and 20 minutes. That's a long time to talk about just a regular Direct, not even like an E3 Direct or like a really big presentation on the scale of like the Switch presentation from 2017. Like, wow. But yeah, so those are kind of my thoughts. I know obviously I talked for a very long time, but just in general, again, like I said at the beginning, I really am not expecting much. I think it is going to mostly be updates, DLC, ports, at least in terms of first party. Maybe we'll see Tears of the Kingdom DLC. Maybe we'll get that new 2D Mario. But generally speaking... Oh, hold on. There's one thing I forgot to talk about. I don't have much to say about it, but one rumor I forgot to talk about is there's rumors, again, I don't remember if this is Zippo or if it's someone else, about like a SNES game getting remade, like an RPG specifically. And a lot of people are like, Super Mario RPG remake? I don't know about that, but that's another thing that may or may not be here. I don't have much to say about it, but I just thought I'd bring it up real quick because I forgot to talk about it. But anyways, that's all I really got to say in regards to the Direct. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys want to see? Do you think we're going to see Tears of the Kingdom DLC? Do you think we're going to see that new Paper Mario? Do you guys see the new 2D Mario? I think we're going to see Persona 3 Reload and Metaphor get announced for Switch. Again, I personally don't care if it gets announced for Switch. Again, like I said earlier, I don't care about third-party Switch ports personally, but obviously a lot of people want them, so if it gets announced, cool. If it doesn't, whatever. Because I'd get it on PS5 anyway, or play it on Game Pass on like PC or Series X anyway, but or do that. But anyways. But yeah, so what do you guys think in general? So by all means, leave your thoughts down below. And with that being said, again, unfortunately, I've been doing a good job at improving my sleep schedule, and now it's going to be ruined because now I'm going to have to stay up all night to watch this. Because for those of you who don't know, I think I've talked about this in the past, but I don't wake up early in the morning to watch these. I stay up all night. That's just how I've done them. So I'm going to have to stay up till like 7 a.m. for this. Which, by the way, is another indication that this is not their, like, E3 Direct. Because the E3 Directs are always at 9 a.m. This is only 7, so that's how I'm saying, like, don't treat it like it's going to be, like, a really big one or anything. Because, like, it's not an E3 Direct. It's just a regular Direct that's in June. Which, again, like I said before, forever ago, is kind of what the E3 Directs are nowadays anyway. Again, going back to that thing, right? I don't think we've had a real proper E3 Direct since 2017, but again, that's a whole thing I could save for another video at some other time. But anyways, that's all I gotta say. So again, by all means, let me know your thoughts down below, what you want to see from the event and all that stuff, and stay tuned tomorrow for when I do the reaction for it, if anyone wants to check that out. And with that being said, this is Logan59XP, and I'll see you guys next time.